So SPE does have a code of conduct, or what is titled here as a guide for professional conduct, and later on there's a specific code of conduct. I'm going to paraphrase that in this presentation, and this is the current link to that professional code of conduct on the SPE website. If you find a good reason to go look at the whole thing in detail. So the preamble is an introduction. It's a really good introduction, and it says that as SPE professionals, so that means all of us that are members, we're professionals in the sense that we have a profession, not in the sense necessarily that we're licensed, but all of us as members in our professional actions are to exhibit the highest standards of competency, honesty, integrity, and impartiality. Honesty is a really big one. That we are fair and equitable in dealing with others and colleagues in particular, and that we do accept the personal responsibility for obeying the law, protecting the environment, and safeguarding the public welfare. So it goes on to say these principles govern our conduct and serve in the interests of a wide range of stakeholders, most importantly, the public. So if you were drilling a sour gas well, you don't want to risk the public coming in contact with the sour gas from that well. So we need to protect the interests of the public, our clients, our employers, our colleagues in the profession. And the details of this code of conduct that I'm going to show you some more of are very similar to what our state laws require and what other engineering professional organizations like the National Society of Professional Engineers would say. So the code has a number of criteria for what we should do to act professionally. A key one that relates often to students and will relate to you after you become a professional as well is do not disclose without consent or take improper advantage of anything of a proprietary or a confidential nature that you know of, and it's most likely coming from your employer or a client. That you accept responsibility for your actions. I'm going to skip to number 10, that you minimize potentially adverse impacts to the environment or the health, safety, and security of the public. And number 9, if your professional duties may adversely affect public health and safety, that you formally advise your employers or clients and subordinates, really important for those of us that are doing operational stuff, that the people carrying out those operations know what those risks may be and how best to deal with them. And if warranted, consider further disclosure to appropriate parties. You'll see as a professional engineer, that requirement becomes more rigid for me. And that you act in law, accordance with all applicable laws and canons of ethics, and that you don't accept bribes. So this might have been a good place to have some discussion if we could, but we're going to keep going forward. And this is not just SPE talking to us. All the states in the U.S. license engineers to show their responsibility to the public, that engineers serve in the public or meet standards for both competence and ethical practice. Something that comes into play for many of us in our profession is that there's what's often called an industrial exception that allows engineers who offer services only to their employer to practice without having one of these professional engineering licenses. And it turns out that it's not just the United States that has these kind of provisions for their engineers to function as professionals. Many other countries either have similar requirements for some government-issued license or a professional organization within the country that grants certifications and defines a code of ethics. And in Louisiana, we do have these laws that require those of us who are working as professionals with providing services to clients, that we have to be licensed. And some of the rules that we have to comply with, or again, recognize and act as our primary obligation is to protect the safety, health, property, and welfare of the public. if we're overruled by an employer or a client, that we need to point out the consequences to them. And if there are conditions which would endanger the public, that we need to notify the relevant governmental authorities of that. And another is, it's really important to us in our profession, in petroleum engineering, is that we include all relevant and pertinent information in our reports, that we're objective and truthful. And we'll look at least one example where we might encounter requests to do something different in practice. So in the next section of this discussion, what I think of as a discussion at least, we're going to consider some real practical situations that have occurred to and other petroleum engineers, and then think about what might be good ways to tackle those challenges. And SPE has had a decision framework that's really hard to find on the SPE website at the moment, but it has the kind of key questions that you could ask yourself to make sure that you're thinking about the issues that could come up in dealing with one of these challenges. So, would your action be legal? Would the stakeholders see the action taken as being responsible stewardship of the stake that they might have in what's happening? Would I feel good about the resulting action if others knew about it? Would I mind having information regarding the decision publicized? Have I consulted with peers and others regarding the perceived action and possible ramifications? Mr. Knowles and I have had multiple discussions about these kinds of issues in the past, and nearly always I've learned that discussing a situation with a peer, or maybe with other people who have a stake in the situation, really helps bring out the different perspectives that need to be accounted for, and figuring out what the right thing to do might be. And a key one for our industry that's gotten negative publicity and has often a negative perception by the public is, would the public perceive what we did as responsible professional action? So now we'll go on to that next segment where we'll actually talk about those things.